Over the years, I've tried a lot of different cleaning routines, schedules, and systems, and honestly, I've learned that keeping a house clean isn't really about spending hours every single day cleaning. For me, it's been the little habits that I repeat over and over again that have made the biggest difference. There are definitely days when my house gets messy. There are days when I don't feel like cleaning, when laundry gets behind, and when I look around and wonder how everything got so out of control. But I've found that having a few simple habits to fall back on makes it so much easier to get my house back under control before the mess becomes completely overwhelming. So today I'm sharing 10 cleaning habits that have genuinely changed the way I take care of my home. Some of these things are really simple that only take a few minutes, but they've made a huge difference in how my house looks and honestly how I feel in my house. So let's get started with number one. One of the biggest things that makes a difference for me is making sure the kitchen is reset at the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying my kitchen looks absolutely perfect every single night because let's be honest, real life happens. But I try really hard not to leave myself a huge mess to deal with the next morning. I'll get the dishes taken care of, wipe down the counters, clean up anything that's been left out, and just get everything back to where it belongs. And I don't know about you, but there is something about waking up and walking into a clean kitchen that makes the entire morning feel better. When I wake up to a sink full of dishes and counters covered in stuff, I immediately feel like I'm already behind before my day has even started. But when the kitchen is clean, it gives me a fresh starting point. And that's really what I love about this habit. I'm not necessarily doing a huge cleaning session at night. I'm just taking a few minutes to reset the space so tomorrow me doesn't have to deal with yesterday's mess. I don't leave a room empty handed. This is one of those habits that sounds almost too simple, but once you get used to doing it, you start noticing how much clutter you can prevent. Whenever I'm leaving one room and heading to another, I try to take something with me that belongs where I'm going. So if I'm sitting in the living room and there's a cup sitting on the table, I'll take it to the kitchen when I get up. If there's something in the kitchen that belongs in one of the bedrooms, I'll take it with me next time I'm going that direction. It's basically just using the trips I'm already making instead of creating another cleaning task for later. Because if you don't do this, little things start collecting everywhere. One cup becomes two, a package gets left on the counter, something gets dropped in the living room, clothes end up in the wrong room, and suddenly there are 20 little things that need to be put away. None of those things individually take very long, but when you let them pile up, it becomes a much bigger job. So instead of thinking I'll clean that up later, I try to just deal with it when I'm already moving around the house. And I'm definitely not perfect at this. There are still days when I walk through my house and realize I've left things everywhere, but making this a habit has made a noticeable difference in how quickly clutter builds up. Laundry is one of those chores that can get completely out of control if you let it sit too long. And I've definitely had those moments where I look at the amount of laundry that needs to be washed, folded, and put away and think, how did this happen? So, one thing that's helped me is simply keeping the laundry moving. I don't necessarily have some perfect laundry schedule where everything happens on a specific day at a specific time. Instead, I try to pay attention to what needs to be done and keep things moving through the process. If there's a load that needs to be washed, I'll wash it. When it's done, I'll move it to the dryer, and then I try to actually fold and put it away instead of letting clean laundry sit in a basket for 3 days. Because that's where laundry becomes really overwhelming for me. It's not necessarily the washing, it's the giant pile of clean clothes that still need to be dealt with. And I've realized that sometimes keeping a house under control isn't about doing one huge productive day every week. It's about doing the little things before they become huge things. I'd much rather fold one load of laundry than spend an entire afternoon staring at 5 loads. And again, I'm not perfect at this. There are definitely days when the laundry gets away from me, but when I notice that happening, I try to just start moving it again instead of feeling overwhelmed by the entire pile. I'll put in a load, fold what is already clean, put some things away, and just keep making sure that the process is moving. If laundry is one of those things that constantly overwhelms you, don't think about the entire mountain. Just think about the next load. Get that one moving and then deal with the next step when you get there. Sometimes that's all it takes to keep a small chore from turning into a huge one. The next one is I clean while I'm already doing something. This is probably one of my favorite habits because it doesn't really feel like I'm adding another chore to my day. Instead, I'm just taking advantage of the time I'm already spending doing something. So, like if I'm cooking dinner and I'm waiting for something to finish, I'll wipe down the counter. If I'm waiting for something in the microwave, maybe I'll put a few things away. If I'm brushing my teeth and notice the bathroom counter needs to be wiped, I'll take an extra minute and do that. I'm basically looking for those little pockets of time throughout the day. And I think this has helped me because sometimes the thought of I need to clean the house feels huge, but I'm going to wipe down the counter while my food is cooking doesn't feel huge at all. It's just one little thing. And when you start doing enough of those little things, you realize you've actually accomplished quite a bit without ever setting aside a 3 hour cleaning session. Now, this doesn't mean I never have dedicated cleaning days. Obviously, I still do bigger resets and deep cleaning when things need it, but these little habits help maintain the house in between those bigger cleaning sessions. And I think that's part of what has made the biggest difference for me. Instead of constantly feeling like I'm chasing a mess, I'm constantly doing little things to stay ahead of it. So if you're short on time or you don't have the motivation to clean your entire house, start looking for those little moments. You don't need an entire afternoon. Number five is I do quick 5 minute resets throughout the day. One thing that has made a huge difference for me is learning the difference between cleaning my house and resetting my house. A reset doesn't mean I'm scrubbing every baseboard, cleaning every window, or deep cleaning every room. It's just getting everything back to its normal place. I'll pick up clutter, put things away, straighten the living room, get the kitchen back under control, deal with the dishes, pick up anything that's been left out, and just make the house feel put together. And I really love doing this because sometimes my house doesn't actually need a deep clean, it just needs a reset. I think that's something that can be easy to forget. You look around and see stuff everywhere and immediately think, I need to clean the entire house. But sometimes the biggest transformation comes from simply putting everything back where it belongs. I'll usually focus on the areas that we use the most because those are the areas that make the biggest difference visually. And when I'm finished, the house feels completely different, even though I didn't necessarily spend hours scrubbing. This habit has also saved me when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Instead of thinking about everything that needs to be done, I'll tell myself, okay, let's just reset the house. That feels much more manageable. I'll put on some music, grab a basket for things that don't belong, and just start moving through the rooms. And usually, once I start, I get motivated to do a little more. Number six, I clean the mess before I clean the surfaces. This is one I wish I had learned earlier because trying to clean around a bunch of stuff makes everything so much harder. If my counters are covered with things, I can't really wipe the counters properly. If the floor is covered with stuff, I can't vacuum. If the bathroom counter is full of products, cleaning the sink becomes a whole project. So before I really start cleaning a room, I like to get rid of the obvious clutter first. Trash goes in the trash. Things that belong somewhere else get moved. Things that need to be put away get put away. And if I come across something that I realize we don't actually need, I'll get rid of it. You don't need a dedicated day to declutter. And the less stuff you have sitting around, the easier it is to clean. And this is also why decluttering has become such an important part of homemaking for me. Sometimes we think we need a better organization system when really what we need is less stuff. You can buy all the bins and baskets in the world, but if you have way more things than you actually use, you're still going to be fighting clutter. So now when I clean, I try to look at the space differently. I'm not just asking, how do I clean this? I'm also asking, why is this space so hard to keep clean? And sometimes the answer is simple, that there's just too much stuff. Number seven is I use a timer when I don't feel like cleaning. Now, I don't think this habit is going to apply to everyone, but this is one of my favorite tricks for the days when I have absolutely no motivation. Instead of telling myself I need to clean my entire house, I'll give myself a very specific amount of time. Maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's a half hour, maybe it's an hour, but I'll set a timer and tell myself when that timer goes off, I can stop. And I also use like everyday life timers. For example, oh, my husband will be home in an hour. My son gets out of school in a half hour. And for me, I'm a very goal oriented person and I like meeting deadlines. And so it works for me. It almost gets me moving faster, quicker, putting my priorities in order. And that's the part I love about this. The timer isn't necessarily about getting everything done, it's about getting myself started because most of the time, starting is the hardest part. And I think this is especially helpful when you're overwhelmed. Like I said, I don't think this habit applies to everyone, but if you're like me, goal oriented and, working better under pressure, then I definitely think you should try this one out. Number 8, I clean what makes the biggest visual difference first. I've learned that I don't have to clean every single thing in my house to make my house feel clean. There are certain areas that make a huge visual difference. For me, that's usually the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom. And so if you walk into the bedroom and the bed is made, that already makes the room look visually cleaner. And then the living room, just fixing the pillows and blankets, the kitchen, making sure there's nothing on the counters, making sure there's not a sink full of dishes. If those areas are clean and picked up, my entire house feels more put together. And that's really helpful when I'm short on time. If I only have 30 minutes, I'm not going to spend that entire 30 minutes cleaning something nobody is going to see. I'm going to focus on the spaces that we use the most and that make the biggest difference. And this is something I think can take a lot of pressure off too, because sometimes we think a clean house means every room has to be spotless, but that's just not realistic all the time. There are days where I can get the main living areas looking really good, and maybe I have time for a closet or the office that needs attention. And that's okay. The goal isn't to make every square inch perfect. The goal is to make your home feel comfortable and functional. So when I'm overwhelmed, I try to prioritize. Number 9, I kind of already touched on, but I get rid of things instead of constantly organizing them. We buy bins, we buy baskets, we rearrange things, we create systems, but sometimes the problem isn't that our stuff isn't organized. Sometimes we simply just have too much. And I've really tried to get better about asking myself whether we actually need something before I find a place to store it. Because every single thing in your house takes up space, and every single thing eventually has to be cleaned, moved, organized, dusted, or put away. So the less unnecessary stuff I have, the easier my house is to maintain. If you guys go back and watch my videos from like 4, 5 years ago, oh my gosh, I cringe looking at those because I'm like, our house was so cluttered. And I kid you not, I took my cleaning, like cleaning, not deep cleaning, but I took my cleaning time and cut it by over half. So it is nothing and takes no time for me to get my house reset and ready for whatever is coming, like the next day, the evening. And that was just simply getting rid of things instead of constantly moving them around and rearranging them. And number 10, I don't wait until I feel motivated. Probably the biggest lesson I've learned is that I can't wait until I feel motivated to take care of my house, because if I waited until I actually felt like cleaning every time, there would be a lot of days when absolutely nothing would get done. These are the days when I'm tired. These are the days I have a million other things on my mind. These are the days when I look around and think, I really don't want to do this today. And I've learned that I don't necessarily have to feel motivated, I just have to start. Sometimes just starting is enough to jumpstart the process and you actually get the motivation while you're accomplishing things. And if all you got done in one day was one chore, that is still one chore that tomorrow you doesn't have to deal with. Sometimes I really do only have the energy to do a small amount, and that's okay. But I've learned that waiting for the perfect amount of motivation is what keeps me stuck. Taking one small action is usually what creates the motivation. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I want you to take away from this entire video. You don't have to completely overhaul your house today. You don't have to spend 8 hours cleaning. Start with one thing. Pick up trash, wash the dishes, vacuum the carpet, throw in a load of laundry. Just one thing. So, those are 10 cleaning habits that have genuinely made a difference for me and the way I take care of my home. I'm curious, which one of these are you already doing, and which one do you think you could start today? And if your house is a little out of control right now, I hope this video reminded you that you don't have to tackle everything at once. Pick one thing, start there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.